He does not need to us. He could, there's like 10 directors we could name who are just kind of like making movies from their Barca lounger.
I don't think he's capable.
He's not capable of doing it. I'm Wesley Morris, and this is Cannonball Today. Da 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 da. I don't even know if that note is in John Williams' score, but the other night, my boyfriend and I watched Jaws. We did it on my laptop in a hotel. Hold your fire. And I'm sorry, but welcome to 2026. And with 7 minutes to go, there was so much more stuff for Chief Brody to do, the Roy Scheider character. He had to obliterate the shark.
Smile, you son of a...
He had to reunite with Richard Dreyfuss. They had to pour one out for Robert Shaw.
Quint. No.
And then they had to swim ashore.
Can we get in on those?
Those 7 minutes are, I don't know, they're this blast of action, but also just really, really satisfying resolution. As the credits faded in and out, we were so delirious and so satisfied. We were also just kind of miserable that we weren't there that summer in 1975, surrounded by this audience that went home up the aisle having had themselves a proper Steven Spielberg experience. Terror and comedy, surprising guts, common sense. I turned to my guy and said what they did 51 years ago after the screen went dark. Let's go again. I actually got to spend some time talking to Steven Spielberg over the last couple of months to write about him for the New York Times Magazine. And he's so not about being the great Hollywood filmmaker. He's like your friend, your friend's dad, your uncle. He's fun and funny and so smart and so interested in life and you. The great filmmaker part is like this... It's almost like this accident, like this gift. And that is part of his genius. I mean, it comes down to his understanding of the movies and his grasp of human emotion. What we've been responding to for over half a century is how deeply he knows us. He can take what scares us, wild animals, aliens, but also water, war, each other. He took how our bedrooms look, how we sleep, how we dream, and put all that into stories that move. I mean, I wish it were fancier than that, but he's not a fancy director. You had a shag carpet and wood panel walls, so his movies do too. Disclosure Day is his new movie, his 35th, and it's about some regular people, just like the other movies. A TV weather person, an encryption specialist, a lapsed nun, and they're trying to understand a plot that is so much bigger than they are.
What's happening to me?
People are starved for the truth. I'm a part of it now. I'm just sorry they made you a part of it too.
It involves aliens. That is the very simple way to put it. Spielberg keeps coming back to those. First in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Then in E.T. and War of the Worlds. Spielberg keeps asking what happens when Earth gets visitors from somewhere else. How are we going to handle that?
Why would he make such a vast universe? Yet save it only for us?
Disclosure Day argues that our government has never trusted us with an answer. And as far as I'm concerned, the aliens in this movie are tests of our humanity. They're stand-ins for all kinds of abuse and oppression and neglect that tends to get carried out in our name. The movie is complicated, but simple at the same time. It's also really, truly upsetting. My friend Eric Hynes, he knows what I mean. He's the director of film curation and programming at the Jacob Burns Film Center up in Pleasantville, New York. But he and I have been talking about Spielberg's effect on us since we worked together at Kim's Video 25 years ago. Oh my God. And so, of course, I had to talk to him about Disclosure Day and also about just what Steven Spielberg means to us, like me and Eric, but also everybody else on this planet. Eric Hynes.
Wesley Morris.
Welcome to Cannonball again. I think at this point, you're my Spielbergologist. You're my co-pilot in Steven Spielberg. You're the person in my life who always surprises me with how deeply you feel all of these movies. But what I'm actually wondering, because I don't know, what was your first Steven Spielberg movie?
Mm-hmm.
Well, wait, sorry. What was your first Steven Spielberg movie-going experience is really the way to put this. Like, what was the film you saw in a theater that did something to you that felt different from other movies you may have seen in a theater?
Well, I mean, I saw E.T. opening weekend.
Okay.
And it was momentous. It was like one of the most memorable viewing experiences of my life.
You remember it was opening weekend?
It was opening weekend.
Okay.
It was like a Saturday morning, I want to say, and it was pouring rain on Staten Island, and my mom and I went, and my mom took me to see E.T. And it was one of those things where E.T. screams from behind the weeds, and I lost my shit. And I thought, like, it was the scariest thing I'd ever seen in my entire life. And it's interesting because I don't know if we've talked about this before, but reading your piece about you going to see E.T. with your mom.
Yeah.
And this idea of, like, do you want to go? Is it too scary? Do you want to go? I remember there was being a similar interaction where my mom was like, oh, this is too much.
Yeah.
And my like, somehow, like, instinctively, like, I'm not moving, I'm not moving. And that turnaround of, like, this, I've never been so scared, but also I've never cried so much, and I've never loved a movie more in my entire life. Like, that kind of, like, full spectrum 2-hour arc happened. And E.T. just kind of captured my imagination. He captured my kind of emotional life for years. Like,
yeah.
I slept with a stuffed E.T. for years. Like, I was just kind of just in that
I didn't
space.
know this.
Yeah. But it was also because but in terms of Spielberg, I remember wanting to see Raiders of the Lost Ark, but being told I was too young for it. That was scary.
Same here.
And then I did see Temple of Doom a couple years later, and that's the most scared I've ever been in a movie. Like, I'm still
Temple of Doom?
I'm still disturbed by Temple of Doom.
What scared you in that movie? Was it
I don't know, like somebody removing their heart with their hand, or eating monkey's brains.
Yeah.
Like, chilled a monkey brain.
These are things that for a 10-year-old were like, I don't know, I just couldn't handle it. But good ride also. Anyway, so Spielberg kind of like dictated my entire like 80s, like amazing stories, all that stuff. But then hook into the 90s, I was outgrowing it and also distrusting it. I just felt kind of like used and manipulated. And like my childhood.
By him?
Yeah, I was like really not comfortable with my childhood because I felt like I figured him out and he was a manipulator and he kind of like was a puppet master and I did not like what he did to my emotions.
Oh my God,
and
you turned into
resisted.
a Gen X punk.
Of course.
Who was just like, fuck you, Dad.
Yeah, totally. No. And I had that thing of like seeing Schindler's List, right? And like crying my eyes out, but also walking out and going, what the hell? Like, no, like, don't do that. Like, that was not, I was not sort of like, I didn't concede to that.
Right. That is fascinating, Eric. I did not know you basically rejected the father.
I did. I rejected the father.
This is
for the 90s.
It never occurred to me to have a different relationship with Spielberg, but I think he never gave me a chance to. Because I remember being fascinated by going from Temple of Doom to Color Purple. because we're talking about like a white Jewish man making a movie written by a Black woman,
right,
about Black women,
right,
and about Black life. And it's so interested in the relationships. There's this great moment in The Color Purple where Shug Avery she's introduced and she like insults Celie out of the gate. She just, she's drunk when she gets to the house and she just, classically Margaret Avery summons the drunk demon. I had an aunt who had a drunk demon in her, and she says to Celie,
"You sure is ugly."
You sure is ugly. I didn't even do it as good as Margaret Avery, but I think the relationship between these two women, which is near the heart of Alice Walker's novel, I think he doesn't get enough credit for bringing that to PG life in this movie.
I agree.
There is a moment at the nightclub where, Shug sings Sister, right?
Sister, you've been on my mind. Oh, sister.
Sister, you've been on my, that moment. Sister, we're two of a kind. Anyway,
Keep going.
She's singing that right at Celie. And the close-up, the look on that sequence is one of the most romantic things I have ever seen in a movie.
I've been up that lonesome road and I seen a lot of suns going down.
The look on Whoopi Goldberg's face as she like, she covers her mouth, right? Because she's embarrassed by her smile and her teeth and her alleged ugliness. And sober and in song, Shug totally redeems the insult that she lays on Celie.
'Cause honey, this Shug is feeling fine.
And oh my God.
Yeah.
And the close-up of Whoopi Goldberg's face in that moment as Shug is singing to Celie is like, it is like the sun just came out.
Yeah.
And it was brought out by this woman pulling it from her. Now, when Color Purple came out in 1985, I would have been 9. Whoopi Goldberg would have been foreign to me. I'd never heard of Oprah Winfrey.
Yeah.
Basically, the star of that movie to me as a 9-year-old was Steven Spielberg.
Sure.
And so I don't know. I had already sort of established this relationship with this person and was willing to follow him wherever he went. But I'm really curious about when it seems like you may have only had like 4 years of rejecting the father.
No, I think actually for the most of the 90s.
Okay, so Schindler's List was what? Like
Schindler's List
outlier?
had a complicated feeling about because I like responded to it. I thought it was a masterpiece, but also like did not like how there was this sort of manipulative element to it. And then I fully despised Amistad. It just felt like wrong.
This is too much.
That film felt like sort of like a blunt object. And then I struggled for the same reason with Saving Private Ryan, which again, masterful film. But the manipulative element of the plot really bothered me. So these are the things I kind of focused on during those years was, yeah, fine, he's great as a master, but I have an issue with the pulling of the strings. But then it was AI, which we've talked about. We don't have to get back into, but the first time I saw it, I had that same reaction to, and then 2 years later revisited it and thought it was probably the most profoundly moving film I'd ever seen in my entire life, and brilliant because I saw in AI this kind of awareness of these themes, awareness of the fact that we're being told stories and strings are being pulled, and that kind of turned me around, and I've been turned around from that point. So there's a solid decade or so where I was just not drinking it, and I was just not trusting it. And now I've come back around to the father, as you say.
because we always do. In many cases, we come around, we come back to daddy. But I'm like, Well, so let me just sort of try to get us a little farther down the road here, because I want to talk about Disclosure Day. And I do want to revisit this question of Steven Spielberg as master manipulator.
Yeah.
And whether that's fair, right?
Yeah.
But I want to think about what this new movie is doing, because what I find exciting about it is it's got all the themes, right? All the ideas are here. And I mean, you know, we can do the plot really fast. I mean, essentially there's a government conspiracy to hide the possibility that alien life forms have been coming to this planet for a long time.
Yeah.
And there is a group of rogue government agents who have tasked themselves to expose this cover-up.
Yep, that's about right.
Are they people?
No.
But the rogue agents and some other character, Emily Blunt character, arise, and they don't quite know how they fit into this. That becomes more of a mystery as things go. And Josh O'Connor, who we start with, he's our protagonist in so many ways, because he's the math whiz, the sort of numbers guy who was kind of going rogue on the government and is in cahoots with some others who are doing so. And yet over time, he starts getting confused about why things are happening, why they're happening.
He thought he knew what he was doing, but there's something deeper going on that only one other character knows, who's the Coleman Domingo character's name is Hugo. And he's the guy on the phone literally calling the shots. I really enjoyed this. You know, it's funny because I think my relationship with the movies of the last 10 years at least have been like, well, let's just see what he's got. Let's just see how much he wants it, how bad he means it, how much oomph there is. Because at this point, he does not need to oomph us.
Sure.
He could, there's like 10 directors we could name who are just kind of like, you know, making movies from their Barca lounger. You know?
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, have we not met this person?
I don't think he's capable.
He's not capable of doing it. So this movie has a kind of, but what surprised me about this one is it feels angry to me. I don't know about you.
I don't know that it feels angry to me. It feels in response. Like, I think it's definitely a response, a reaction to the things that make him incredibly upset.
Okay.
But I don't think the film feels angry to me.
Fine. It is, there is an anger underneath it, I think. It's not driven by. Yes.
So, you know, it also feels, it's interesting you're saying, in terms of looking at films over the last decade and what do you got? To me, like, this film and Fabelman's in particular, but also kind of a few before then, feel summational. He's aware that he's been approaching these themes for half a century. He's aware that he has a filmography. He's allowing you to sort of see them bubble up, but also it's not a victory tour. It's I've been chasing this for half a century. Where have I gotten? What do I actually believe in? Where do I want to actually take this? So it feels, yes, like a summational thing, but also like there's an urgency to it. Like it needs to amount to something, and he really wants this to amount to something.
I love the way you're thinking about this, because to me, I think there's a way that the summational functions in this movie, right? Like there are many Spielbergian themes at work here. Yeah. And, you know, the ones that I'm identifying kind of overlap in a lot of ways. You know, so we're talking about childhood. I'm thinking, you know, these ideas of home, but also these stand-ins for Steven Spielberg himself in this film, and the ways that the major characters can be understood as aspects of him. But what I love is that it's all really discreet. There is one moment in this film that sort of brings these things to a head. So you've been watching an action film for like 90 minutes. And, you know, because the entire time you've been watching Coleman Domingo on the phone talking to these characters.
Yep.
And while he's on the phone, there are people just like, you know, he's on the set of something.
Yeah.
And something is being built.
Yeah.
And then this amazing thing happens where Emily Blunt's character finally, gets to her rendezvous point in the form here of a literal house.
Mm-hmm.
And all is revealed, at least in terms of what this set is for. And what happened to you? I'll just say, what happened to you when this revelation?
I think,
when you see what they built.
I was profoundly moved. It is a moment where you're aware of this is a film set, basically, and this guy is a director of sorts. But in terms of so this house that they create for Emily Blunt to revisit and to revisit her childhood, it's a kind of immaculately reconstructed space that she can recognize as being her house. But there's something about going into this space that, to me, like, there's evocations of like Elliot's room and E.T.
Yes,
There's like there's a set there
the
that
kids' rooms in Close Encounters, right?
But there's something about this, and having read your profile, I know that Spielberg doesn't do therapy, but there's something about this entire sequence to me that plays as therapy I'm somewhat used to, familiar with,
right.
EMDR,
right.
This idea of rewiring, of kind of revisiting a place of trauma, revisiting a place of memory, and not just getting there for the purposes of it, but actually figuring out a way out of the house.
Yes.
And that's kind of what happens in this sequence, where we're then transported back to her childhood and we revisit the moment, but the movie doesn't end. Like, there has to be something that follows out of that. And so I think you said like 90 minutes into the film, we get into the scene, but I actually feel like everything that comes after this scene is her emerging from that house.
Yes.
Literally,
yes.
but also emotionally and psychologically.
Yes.
And that's the thing that, to me, is so profound about this film and why it works for me, is that, yes, all this is a construct. All this is a story. All the strings are being pulled. And then it's like, and now what?
Yeah.
What are you going to do with it?
I don't know. I just want to sit in the moment where we see this house, because what it says to me is like, oh, he knows. He knows everything about like what he's about.
Yeah.
And there are some directors, if they did this, if they went to the thing that's at the heart of the work, it would be ghastly or tasteless.
Yeah. But it would also be terminal, I guess is what I'm saying. It would be about that.
That's a great
It
word.
would be about getting to the point of the power of revisiting this home of your childhood, having this catharsis, and then that's it. He's not interested in that anymore. I actually think that maybe 20, 30 years ago, that may have been sort of enough to get to the place of a catharsis, get to a place of reckoning, of equating my adult self for my younger self, and here's a scene where these things come together. He's looking to get past that because he realizes that, honestly, he may be obsessed with childhood, but he knows that if we're stuck in our childhoods, we don't move forward.
Nothing.
We don't grow. And he's looking
for
us to grow. He's looking for there to be some kind of transformation so that we can do the next thing.
But also, I think that one of the beautiful things about this film is it really isn't asking for you to read this movie that way. Because the thing that people are going to this movie to experience is what is being disclosed on Disclosure Day.
Sure.
It's not a secret that what we're talking about is the government covering up some sort of alien life force presence on Earth.
Sure.
But there is something really moving once disclosure begins, where at least my mind went as you're watching the footage of these creatures being, herded, camped, tortured.
Yeah.
That, all you can think about is the present.
Yeah.
And you think about, 100 years of human rights abuses, being allegorized in the form of, or made metaphor, in the form of this footage.
Well, and that's why I think it's relevant. It's not just subtext that we're thinking of Spielberg and his themes, because there is in a sense a text of his films that have taught us how to maybe think about alien life and how to interact with them, whether or not they might be good for us, maybe the wonderment. To me, Disclosure Day is like, because I love E.T. E.T. is perfect, but it's almost as if it's through the point of view of Peter Coyote.
Elliot, I've been to the forest.
Oh, wow. Peter Coyote being the government agent who is sort of responsible for, I mean, what do we call the experimentation on? Is that right? Am I remembering him properly?
He's looking to sort of, he's like, seems like he's the bad guy. He's the guy with the keys. Like, it's like he's coming in and we don't know why they might be the bad guy, but they seem like they're the bad guy.
Right.
But he's basically working for the government, which probably is not going to be on the side of the aliens, but to do good.
Right.
To sort of like somehow, help bridge the gap and be the kind ambassador that the aliens could need. And so therefore he's the only one who gets Elliot.
He came to me. He came to me.
Elliot, he came to me too. I've been wishing for this since I was 10 years old. I don't want him to die. What can we do that we're not already doing?
Right.
That's what happens in E.T. But to me, like, this Disclosure Day is like from like a full adult revisiting this childhood experience. And in E.T., it would be, if it was from Peter Coyote's perspective, there would have to be a whole other chapter about what happens next and what it means to have been visited.
I love this, Eric. This is really interesting to me. Because what it does is it sort of, I mean, I understand what E.T. has superficially in relation, what it has in common superficially in relationship to Disclosure Day, but this idea that there's this whole wing of, there's a whole character in E.T. who, we never talk about the Peter Coyote character at all.
Yeah.
And yet he is crucial to the calming of our nerves. Because I remember, one of the things that was most upsetting about E.T. Was that passage where he shows up and the experiments start happening, and you see Elliot, I'm crying when you're killing him.
You can't get a pulse or blood pressure on the creature. He doesn't look like he's breathing. You can't break a skull. Feel like that. How's he doing? How's the child doing? Unhook him. Give it over.
And, I'm like, I'm sitting in my seat, like, you're killing him.
Yeah.
So,
and he's not believed.
And nobody, right. That's the other thing is like, children are here to be seen, not heard, or whatever that, our understanding as kids that couldn't possibly be true because we have been watching this entire movie from Elliot's perspective.
We know this is real.
And we know this is real.
Yeah. And Peter Coyote is the only one who knows it,
right,
who believes
right,
him.
Right,
and so have an adult believe you as a kid who's seen something improbable is transformative.
But his being here is a miracle, Elliot. It's a miracle. And you did the best that anybody could do. I'm glad he met you first.
And now, like, we're past that. Like, this is a film where...
Yeah, we tried this.
We tried that. We reacted to it, but no, we've
already.
Actually done something so awful in response to that. We actually did something just sort of unforgivable to this. And so I feel like that's important. I feel like it's important that we carry that in because we know the pure reaction that we could have. Like, we start with, like, pure wonderment, basically, in Close Encounters, and, like, sort of, like, bowing to the wonder of the unknown. And those are, and that's historically accurate too. Like that wonderment that may have come from, that existed still somehow in the mid-70s, but now we're in a moment where we can relate this to the world that we're in. The idea that, like, none of us think that if some foreign entity came into our world right now that we would handle it with any kind of grace or acceptance.
Well, this is the government's excuse for never telling us.
Right.
Well, I mean, some of it is just targeted, projected narcissism on
yes,
on the part of, like, decades of federal governmenting.
Sure.
But it's basically that we are the sort of prime story in the galaxy, and there is no other. It's just us. But I want to stay with Close Encounters for a minute because, I love what you said about the sort of wonder of the possibility of this extraordinary event happening, which essentially in the world of that movie is, visitors from outer space coming to us.
Yeah.
and nobody's scared. Everybody's just interact, right? There are people coming to watch the fireworks of these UFOs every night, and they just come visit and do a light show.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. There's just we start out in Spielberg being truly innocent.
Yes.
Of these visitations.
Right. And so I guess my point is that 50 years later, we're going to visit the idea that we've been visited before.
Mm-hmm.
In order to even think about the fact that this has been happening for 70 years or so, I'm thinking about the visitations of Close Encounters.
Right.
It's almost an historical event within the world of this.
We know they came.
We know they came.
We know they came.
And we know that there's really productive ways of responding to that. And obviously what comes with that is the idea of opening yourself to the unknown, opening yourself to something that you can't understand. And that's something as humans we're incredibly bad at. We're very, very bad at being open and vulnerable and listening. And so he's positing we didn't respond that way. We responded in the worst possible way, and then we've hid it from everyone to prevent them from having this experience of wonderment, but also to hide it from them because they're not going to handle it well.
I kind of want to think about what you're saying about being open and vulnerable and listening, because this to me is our entire relationship to this man, right? In his filmmaking, which is about him opening us up and us being open to his ideas and his wonder and instilling that in us. But I think, I don't know. I just sort of want to think more holistically about what the Steven Spielberg project ultimately is with Disclosure Day in mind, but just thinking about 50 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really interested in thinking about what it's meant to have this person in our lives for you and me, our whole lives, but also what it means to have had him work as much as he's worked. Because, you talked before about you rejecting him for being manipulative. You recognized in him this gift, skill, curse of manipulation, and it didn't work for you. And I want to sort of complicate that a little bit by bringing into the room Mr. William Goldman, one of our great screenwriters and one of the great thinkers about the movies, period. He has a chapter in one of his, essential books, Adventures in the Screen Trade. This is the guy who wrote The Princess Bride and Misery and All the President's Men and Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. And he spends a few moments to think about what George Lucas and Steven Spielberg represent. And this book came out in 1983. So it comes out, Goldman's already seen E.T., which comes out in 82. And he's basically trying to summarize what it is that Spielberg and Lucas are doing that feels important. And it's important, he's conjoining Spielberg and Lucas because they're friends. They work together a lot. And the culmination of that friendship at that point had been Raiders of the Lost Ark, which Lucas wrote and Spielberg directed. So I should also say, these are comic book movies to William Goldman. That is his description of them. These are movies that satisfy some kid-like need to have a tidy story, and he classifies them, not pejoratively, as comic book movies. So here are the 4 qualities that sort of make what it is Spielberg is doing comic book-like in their nature. Generally, only bad guys die. This is number 1. And if a good guy does kick, he does it heroically. Number 2. There tends to be a lack of resonance. Like the popcorn you're munching, it's not meant to last. Number 3. The movie turns in on itself. Its reference points tend to be other movies. If, for example, there had been no Saturday afternoon serials, there would have been no frame for Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's true. Can't deny it. It's number 4 that I'm like, Mr. Goldman. But he's not wrong. And probably, this is number 4, and probably most important, the comic book movie doesn't have a great deal to do with life as it exists, as we know it to be. Rather, it deals with life as we would prefer it to be. Safer that way. Your thoughts?
Well, I think thinking about what he was referencing in terms of those films, I think that's fair in terms of Star Wars.
I agree.
It's totally fair. I think it's fair for Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
You know, like this is a closed off world. It's not true for E.T. I don't think it is.
He loved E.T., by the way.
Yeah,
he was convinced at that point it was going to win Best Picture.
Well, but I don't. So I think that's where things start to emerge. I also think that's not necessarily true of Jaws.
It's not true with Jaws.
No, Jaws is like you're carrying stuff into that movie and you're taking it away that are there's a porousness, and that's what happened culturally with. But
also Close Encounters.
Close Encounters also. Yeah. No, I don't think that's. I think it's really about Raiders of the Lost Ark and Star Wars.
Yeah. Yeah.
That I feel like that's what he's really referencing.
But I think, though, I want to be fair to his observation because it still fundamentally holds, right? I mean, what he's thinking about in a lot of ways is a kind of it's not quite nostalgia, but it's bound up in nostalgia. There is a kind of, I mean, just him saying safer that way.
Right.
And point number 4, with respect to life as it's lived versus how we'd prefer it to be.
Right.
I think that there's a sort of there's a zone between those two worlds where there's a tension between the two. And I think what Spielberg is actually great at is the tension between life as it's being lived and life as you wish it could be.
Right.
And a lot of his characters exist in the zone between the idyllic and the dysfunctional. That
is true. That is very true. And I think that as time has gone on, he's more aware of the problem.
This is what I want to talk about. Yes.
Which is what's interesting, right? I feel like he's more aware of that problem. And that's why I think it was interesting when he started getting into realist historical dramas, like a Saving Private Ryan, which I think is why him getting into that terrain and bringing some of these tricks, some of this storytelling tendencies that he has were not up to the task because it kind of could simplify reality.
Great use of tricks is a good...
Right. Simplifying an historical reality through this kind of like, big screen cinematic storytelling devices, which I think is a fair criticism. It doesn't mean that film's not incredible, but like I think it's fair to sort of say, now you've gone into this terrain, wait a second. Schindler's List, Saving Private Ryan, we're not just in the realm of movies are amazing, wow, which is not fair. But that's where I think it starts getting complicated. And that's why it's interesting to me the last 20, 25 years when he's getting back into historical or contemporary stories, how much more complicated they are and how much more they are seeming to be in conversation with reality.
So let's talk about these like last 25, 26 years.
Yeah.
Because I think what we both agree on is that his last 25 or 26 years are as good and in some ways better than his first 25 or 26.
I wouldn't necessarily say that in terms of batting average, but in terms of the greats, great ones are as good as anything, and I think more interesting. And I think I'm always interested in artists as they age.
Me too.
I think that we too often dwell on the younger artists and we dwell on the kind of first moments of brilliance. And you could certainly do that with Spielberg. You could certainly say his greatest film is Jaws, best film.
We're done.
I see
Just
it.
leave
I
it alone.
see it.
Right,
Fair.
Yeah.
But it's way more interesting when an artist gets a chance to stay in his game and evolve and change and mature. And I think that there's kind of like there's hardly any example of quite like this. I mean, Scorsese is also of which is interesting because they're contemporaries, but kind of continuing to evolve and become a different artist while also being the same guy. And I think Disclosure Day is like an incredible opportunity because of the themes involved.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I really love about what that house is doing in Disclosure Day is that it is making explicit a thing that is such a huge part of the Steven Spielberg project, which is what it means to have a home and what it means to no longer have one or be displaced from it. And home can be something as simple as like an actual house, the way it is here. But it can also be conceptual, right? Like, what does it mean? What happens? What is the real chaos in War of the Worlds, for instance? It's that you've got millions of people like suddenly homeless and like, migrating from point A to point who knows. West Side Story is a movie about people fighting over a neighborhood and as it is being destroyed.
Sure. And it's a hard fought neighborhood too, because they had come from somewhere else.
Right, exactly.
And this is a home that they had made.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, just to be clear about West Side Story, the achievement of that is it is dialing way up these themes that are like loosely touched upon in the original musical. And it's sort of saying, I mean, his Steven Spielberg and Tony Kushner's West Side Story is, like an explicitly political document, right?
Yeah.
About displacement, right? And gentrification. I was trying to think of a precedent, in the movies for someone, Spielberg is going to be 80 this year.
Yeah.
And like, I just feel like there is such life coming out of this work, and it's been true from just from the town hall meeting in Jaws, right? Where, everybody comes together to complain about how this is going to ruin business if you close the beach.
Yeah.
To the America sequence in West Side Story. And I don't know. I just, it still matters to him so much.
Imagine if he had made West Side Story in the 70s. It would be a totally different film.
It would be a totally different movie.
It would have a different perspective. It would have a different look. The fact that those 70s films are such 70s American films is what's so great about them. And now the fact that these films are this American 21st century development makes them in some ways, you could say, aesthetically here and there. I'm not as interested in this or that. But what he's doing in terms of the stories he's telling and how he's telling them and the perspective that they have is even more interesting, I think, because there is like something like The Fabelmans, which is from a child's point of view, and yet we all know that it's from an older man's point of view, that he's kind of seeing through this younger self. You can really only do that if you're working in your 70s. So anyway, to get back to your point, in some ways, this might be his best era. I can see that.
I mean, I think there's like a pocket that we should like think about here, which is this collaboration with Tony Kushner.
Yes.
I mean, they've made 4 movies together, starting with Munich and then Lincoln and then West Side Story and then The Fabelmans.
Yeah.
And in honor of you, Eric, it's funny every time I know I'm going to talk to you about, there's a possibility that we talk about Steven Spielberg, I watch Munich again. I think, Munich is the first in this relationship. Tony Kushner, of course, being one of our great American artists. He's a playwright. He is a political activist. He's a humanist the way Spielberg is, but like with much more emphatically humanist.
Yeah.
And these two are the two of the least likely people you would ever think would be capable of making movies together. And yet
wasn't
they
a screenwriter. Like
he'd never written a movie before.
To write a script.
So I watched Munich last night again, and I know that you love it.
Yeah,
I do too. But that movie is so strong, and it is so morally pungent. This is a movie about the Israeli government's response to the assassination of 11 Israeli athletes during the Munich Games in 1972. And it, movie-wise, is a caper movie.
Yep.
In which a ragtag crew comes together to hunt down the Palestinians who were involved in the assassinations, who were hiding in Europe, all over Europe. So the crew, they're debating each murder, and what it's going to mean, what it means to do it. But they're also, as they enact this mission, thinking about what it means, and are they even being told the truth about what it is they've been assembled to do by the Israeli government?
Yeah, arguably his best film, but also has so many things going on in it that we're talking about. That's what's so like.
You mean in the present?
No. I'm thinking
thematically.
I think that's why I think it's the pivot film. Obviously, working with Kushner is a pivot, but also the idea of approaching history and seeing it from multiple angles, complicating it, having it be about the way that we as people deal with revenge and deal with reacting to trauma and to violence. I mean, the sequence with the phone.
I turn it on. He picks up the phone, turns on the red light, then take out the key, insert it, and turn.
Yeah.
Where basically there's a plan to have the telephone ringing as a trigger, and the man who's the target, who they're supposed to blow up his house, he answers the phone, they confirm it's him, and that's supposed to set things in motion. What happens is his daughter's home that day, and she's involved. And so...
She's like 12.
Yeah, 12.
Allô?
And so what happens then is...
Allô?
Some members of the team are aware of this more than others. And so basically Eric Bana has to run from one car to the other to alert them to not detonate because of the girl. And you're basically cross-cutting between what's going on in the apartment and with this car, that car. Stop. And yes, it's incredible filmmaking. It's incredibly tense. It's kind of like almost the definition of how to make a suspenseful action sequence happen. But it's about something. It's about a lot more. It's not just about, what's going to happen. Will the house blow up? Will the girl die?
Right.
Vas-y à l'école, chérie.
Au revoir, papa. Ne travaille pas trop tard, hein?
Oui.
It's more like, what are we doing here?
Right.
Like, what is
why,
any of this
Why
about?
is any of this happening?
Yeah. And that kind of infuses the entire film, which I think then kind of echoes beyond the story of the film itself and into geopolitical realities and what we do as a society, but also as men in particular, in confronted with, murder, betrayal, principles, ideology, etc. So to me, the idea of kind of getting inside what he's so good at, which is telling a story with images and through drama, kind of changes for me with that film, because it's not, these are not sequences where you are really left with a clear sense of what should happen or what is right and what is wrong. Because you've got your protagonists who are doing murderous acts, and they're very visceral murders.
Every single death in this movie. It's funny, I talked to Tony Kushner to talk to Steven Spielberg.
Okay.
And, Kushner was worried about whether Spielberg would be willing to go as far as Kushner's screenplay wanted him to go in terms of the violence, in terms of the politics.
Yeah.
And, Kushner just said, yeah, I mean, he was ready. But what's interesting is how sort of the same person who makes that sequence and, the famous sequence in Raiders, the gun and the knife, right?
Yeah.
This is a totally different director in some ways.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
This is a person who is really thinking about the human and moral consequences of a death.
Yep.
And there is no death for comedy here. There is, every death is a tragedy. Every near death is a tragedy.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I feel like you need, I don't know if this is, I'm going to say this and it's just not going to be true. But I mean, I think that there's a world in which this person needed to make a Raiders of the Lost Ark in order to make a Munich.
Absolutely. And listen, you look at any sequence in Raiders of the Lost Ark in terms of just cinematic language, and it's as good as anything. Like it's incredible. But what is beneath it? What's behind it? What's the meaning of it all? To me, like what happened is, and it happened to me too. So again, it's not so much like Spielberg grew up. I grew up more than anything, and I think I started interpreting his films differently. But I do think that you can make me feel something, and you have the power. Like nobody is better at making me feel something as he is. I don't have to feel good about you making me feel something. He's making me feel things. I feel like now for quite some time, what he's making me feel is way more complicated. There's no direct press a button, make me cry, press a button, make me scared. It's much more like, what did I just feel? What do I do with this feeling? That is on another level.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. He's just, I don't know. I love him. I don't know. I don't know. All right, we're done. We Spielberged.
I have something that I may have referenced, but
oh my,
something I actually still have. Before. Show and tell.
Oh, not show and tell. Oh,
you're not taking this from me.
Oh,
this is my EP. This is. This is what I slept with.
Oh my God!
For 3 years until junior high.
This is wild.
This is.
I had
still
one of
pretty
these.
Good. You had one of these too?
I had one of these. Oh my God! This is a recovered memory. You know, there was a moment when I was writing about him and like writing about the experiences of other people experiencing him, like when I would go out into the world with Steven Spielberg, and. To myself, I described him as like a walking recovered memory. That?
What happened to yours?
I don't know.
Mine's not going anywhere.
Oh my God. Oh my
anyway.
God. That is
Spielberg has been with us for a very long time.
I mean, he'll be with me to the grave. But probably beyond the grave, honestly. Like all those memories are just gonna go out into somebody else's situation. Eric, thanks for doing this.
Thank you, Wesley.
Can I?
Yeah, please.
I mean, oh my God, I can't believe you still have it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
My mom did
I'm a sentimental.
I really wonder. My mother, she was the best mom ever, but she didn't have any problem being like,
getting rid of shit.
You got 5 minutes. This is going in the dumpster.